And a good day to all of you in Santa Clarita. Here we go. 12:08. Welcome to another edition of Out of Bounds here on your hometown station, KHTS 98.1 FM, AM 1220. Matt Frieda here with you till 1 o'clock. Phone number to join, as always, 661-298-5487. It is an NFL playoff Thursday. We have playoff football here in Los Angeles. No, it's not the Rams, but the Los Angeles Chargers representing the City of Angels here this weekend as they go on to take the Jacksonville Jaguars in the Super Wild Card weekend. Good afternoon, Andrew. How are you?
Doing great. Excited. Football playoffs getting me pumped out, man.
Wouldn't it just be nice if one of our teams was involved in the playoffs?
Yeah, one of our teams. Yeah, sadly the Raiders. Finally let go of our quarterback. He today on Instagram posted his farewell. Thank you for the plane. Yes, I know there was crying on behalf of me, but yeah, that's in the past now. Looking forward to good playoffs this weekend.
It's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. I can't wait. This is what we all get up for as NFL fans. Even if your team's not involved, it should be a great weekend of some playoff football. And they call it now the Super Wild Card round because they've added 7 total teams from each conference in the playoffs. So now we have 6 games this weekend, and it's going to be fun. But the big story for us here locally, of course, is that we have a representative from Los Angeles. And as I mentioned, no, it's not the Super Bowl winning Rams, but instead the Los Angeles Chargers are back in the playoffs. Hit it, Andrew. Bolt up, baby. Bolt up. I just want to know, where is the juice surrounding this game? Where's the buzz? Because this is the first playoff appearance for the Chargers since 2018. Really the first time since they've come to Los Angeles. I believe 2018 they were still playing at the StubHub Arena, so I don't really count that as them having come to Los Angeles yet. But now they are back in the playoffs for the first time in 4 years. They finish as the 5th seed, the best wild card team of the 3 wild card winners this year. Unfortunately, they are going to be on the road to start the playoffs, despite having a better record than the Jaguars. We're going to get into that in a second. But really, it's funny. You look a year later from the debacle that was the Chargers last year as they were looking to get into the playoffs. All they had to do was tie with the Raiders in that game, which that's not a very common thing in the NFL, right? We don't see a whole lot of ties. It seems maybe one a year now. But everybody was saying, well, realistically, both the Raiders and Chargers could get into the playoffs if they tie. And nobody thought that was actually going to happen. And then it got really close to happening. The Raiders with the ball coming down to the wire. And a very questionable timeout used by head coach Brandon Staley of the Chargers. The Raiders end up kicking the game-winning field goal, much to Andrew's pleasure, and the Raiders end up winning the game and going into the playoffs. The Chargers do not go in, and that really was a bad mark on Brandon Staley. And even despite that, they are now back into the playoff picture. As I mentioned, we'll be taking on the AFC South champion Jacksonville Jaguars this weekend in Jacksonville. And like I said, I want to know, where is the buzz around this game? The Chargers are representing LA in the playoffs. They have as good a chance as any team to make their march to the Super Bowl. They have the quarterback in Justin Herbert. They have the skill position players with Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, and Austin Eckler. They've got a disruptive pass rusher in Khalil Mack on defense. There's no reason why the Chargers cannot carve their path through the AFC and on their way to the Super Bowl. So we're going to get into that real quick. I want to mention before I go any further, one of the really cool things about the Super Wildcard weekend here coming up, beginning, I believe, are there going to be games Saturday, by the way, Andrew? Or are these all?
Yep, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday.
Perfect. So we got games all through Saturday through Monday. And all 6 of these games are actually rematches from games in the regular season. So this is going to be really interesting to see. It's actually the most such repeat rematches in a postseason round in NFL history. So we have a little bit of evidence, a little bit of tangible facts to go back to and see how these two teams matched up previously. Now, that's the same for the Chargers. And if you are a Chargers fan, you may want to handcuff your ears right now because it wasn't pretty when the Jaguars and Chargers met up earlier this year. Week 3 of the season, Trevor Lawrence outplaying Justin Herbert that week. Herbert throwing for 3 touchdowns, completing 28 of 35 passes. The Chargers turning the ball over 2 times, both coming from Herbert, an interception, a fumble. They also turned it over on downs 2 times. That goes back to Brandon Staley's aggressive play calling on 4th down. And quite frankly, the Jaguars pimp slapped the Chargers by a final score of 38-10. Andrew got a little scared what I just said there. I hope that's okay. So, look, it's revenge time for the Chargers. It is time to get their vengeance against the Jaguars. They have to avenge a very, very ugly Week 3 loss and hopefully advance to the playoffs and make their march to the Super Bowl. Woohoo! Look, there's a lot of different – these teams are different. There are some caveats to this. Now, that Week 3 game, 38-10, it's almost like it was a completely different season, and here's a few reasons why. The Chargers were not at full strength in that game. Leading wide receiver of that game for the Chargers was Joshua Palmer. 6 catches, 99 yards. Nothing against Joshua Palmer. Nothing against that stat line. 99 yards, that's a great line right there. But he's not Keenan Allen. He's not Mike Williams. He's not a top flight wide receiver in the NFL. The Chargers will have Keenan Allen back for this game, and he has been great since he returned. Unfortunately, wasn't enough to bring me to my fantasy football championship, but that's for another day. He has been tremendous since coming back, and back rightfully so as one of the NFL's top receivers. The Jaguars, on the other hand, are very different as well. And not just from the beginning of this season, but really from the last 2 seasons, 2020, 2021, the Jaguars had the worst record in the NFL in back-to-back seasons. And that is after getting over the debacle that was Urban Meyer last season. I'm sure if you're a football fan, you know already Urban Meyer, the famous college coach who has been with Florida, Ohio State, tremendous success at the college level, was hired by the Jaguars to hopefully teach Trevor Lawrence the number 1 overall pick and bring that team together and hopefully put that franchise on the right path. Meanwhile, Urban Meyer was grinding on college-aged women after a loss last year, promptly fired a few weeks later, and obviously for the better. But this season actually started in familiar fashion. They did bring in Super Bowl winning coach Doug Peterson, who won in Super Bowl 42 with the Philadelphia Eagles, but they began the season 2-6, and the questions about Trevor Lawrence began to surface. They then go on to rip off 7 wins in their final 10 games, including 7 come-from-behind victories throughout the season. They climb out of a 4-game deficit to the division-leading Titans and dethrone them in the AFC South, including a head-to-head matchup with Tennessee where they erased a 10-point deficit in what ended up being the division title clinching game. In fact, the Jaguars actually trailed for the first 56 minutes of that game versus the Titans before inevitably going on to win it and claim the AFC South. And Trevor Lawrence has been the big reason for this turnaround for Jacksonville. The number 1 overall pick is living up to the hype. In his last 8 games, Jacksonville has gone 6-2, and one of those losses coming to Kansas City. But over these last 8 games, Lawrence is completing 68% of his passes, 14 touchdowns as compared to 2 interceptions, and averaging 255 yards per game. And he's also using his legs. He has been running the ball effectively, including 2 rushing touchdowns. So there's really no question about Trevor Lawrence at this point. He is looking like the number 1 overall pick that he was touted as coming out of Clemson after winning multiple national championships with that program there. And this incredible turnaround for the Jaguars isn't solely because of Sunshine, as people like to refer to him as he looks like Sunshine from Remember the Titans. Is that what it is, Andrew?
Oh, yeah, he definitely. That's what I call him.
Yeah, Sunshine. I mean, totally. I also think he happens to look like, and this is well documented, the wife, Carmela Soprano, from The Sopranos. He looks
right,
like
yeah, you can go that route.
He looks like Edie Falco, 100%. But I don't care what my quarterback looks like. If he's playing at the level that Trevor Lawrence is playing at, you're going to have a really, really good start to your team. That's a great way to build around a team with that quarterback play. But it's not just the quarterback play. The Jaguars' defense has also had a huge turnaround. And again, maybe this is what happens with the team when your coach isn't going and getting drunk at a bar after a loss and grinding on college-aged women, which, mind you, he's also married, by the way. That's enough Urban Meyer slander for the day. I don't know what he's doing these days, but oof, that was bad last year. So they bring in Doug Peterson. All of a sudden, the offense is ninth in total offense as far as yards per game. They're 10th in scoring. They're averaging 23.7 points per game this year. And the biggest turnaround has been really the defense, as I alluded to. They are 7th in turnover differential with a +5 margin this year. In other words, they have caused 5 more turnovers on defense than their offense has committed. Last year, they were -20. So they went +25 change in that department, from -20 turnovers last year to +5 turnovers this year. And again, I bring up the point where they were down the first 56 or 57 minutes of the game versus the Titans with the division on the line, come back and find a way to win. And you got to give a lot of credit of that on a veteran and Super Bowl winning coach like Doug Peterson. Really incredible to see what the Jaguars have done. But the Chargers are a really good team too. Don't forget that. Obviously, they've got Justin Herbert. This is going to be an incredible matchup. 2 young quarterbacks with their first NFL playoff exposure. Who is going to live up to the hype? Who is going to crumble under the pressure? Honestly, I love the mindset of both of these guys. Both Justin Herbert and Trevor Lawrence have big game experience. I already mentioned Clemson having won national championships under the leadership of Trevor Lawrence as quarterback. Justin Herbert is no stranger to big games either, having played at Oregon, multiple Rose Bowls, and playing in other big bowl games throughout his collegiate career as well. So it's really, in my opinion, going to come down to who outplays the other. Now, that being said, as much as I like both of these quarterbacks, as good as I think both of them are, I wouldn't be surprised if one or the other throws multiple interceptions. I wouldn't be surprised at all if that's how it goes. I could also see one or the other throwing for 350 yards and 3 touchdowns. I really could see it going either way. But the whole point here being is that it will come down to that quarterback play, in my opinion, and which team's defense can best disrupt the other's young quarterbacks. And I think the Chargers have as good a chance as the Jaguars to be the beneficiaries of that. And I'll give you a few reasons why. Khalil Mack, formerly one of the best defensive players in the NFL. He's taken a step back as he's gotten a little bit older. We obviously knew him as a member of the Raiders, went to the Bears, had a really good season or two. Last year missed some time, but this year came back, played all 17 games, led the team with 8 sacks, with 12 tackles for a loss, and with 56 quarterback hurries. He has to disrupt Trevor Lawrence and throw off his timing if the Chargers want to win this game. Another key for this game, Jacksonville's pass defense is really not all that impressive. They are allowing nearly 240 passing yards per game. That is the 5th worst in the NFL. So that's going to fall on the shoulders of Justin Herbert. Can he take advantage of this pretty porous Jacksonville pass defense? Meanwhile, LA is ranked 3rd in passing yards this year, and obviously you give the credit of that to Justin Herbert. He's going to have Keenan Allen back. We're going to talk a little bit about the injury report here in a second because he may be without one of his other top wideouts this week although that situation is still fluid, so it could change. But Thursday, usually we have a good idea of who is playing and who is not, unless they're what they consider a game time decision. So can Herbert step up in the first playoff game, take advantage of a pass defense that really is not all that too impressive? That's really what I think could be the difference in this game, and whether or not Khalil Mack and the Chargers defense can disrupt Trevor Lawrence. I think my lunch is here. Oh, I can't wait. I got a Natalie's salad from Wood Ranch. You ever had that before? You like Wood Ranch?
Oh, Wood Ranch, solid choice.
Wood Ranch slaps. Those buns, the garlic buns.
Yep.
Oh, so good.
Oh, you got me one, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Right.
I think I got 2 in the bag.
Okay.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I was looking at this thing, by the way, not to get off topic. I do listen to Joe Rogan here and there, and he's on this carnivore diet where they only eat meat.
Only eat meat?
I'm kind of thinking about it.
It sounds pretty awesome. Not going to lie.
I mean, bacon for breakfast, lunch,
Come
and
on.
dinner? How can you beat that?
You had me at carnivore diet.
Yeah. I mean, I have heard that there are some, to put it nicely, residual effects as far as your dietary, your bowel situation.
Yeah.
So I'm a little concerned about
Yeah.
that. But if I can eat bacon 3 or 4 times a day, I am going to do it. I will take it. And they say you keep muscle and lose fat. So
I don't know how it works. I'm not a scientist, but I'll jump on board with that.
All right. I'll be bringing fat slabs of bacon around for the station here this week. Let's go to the injury report real quick about Chargers Jaguars. So Jacksonville is very limited, minimal injuries. They should be at full strength. The only things that we saw yesterday was that Trevor Lawrence was limited at practice. Obviously, he's playing because there's no serious injury. I think they're trying to just make sure that he is fully up to snuff for Saturday or Sunday. I can't remember what day this game is. Meanwhile, though, as I mentioned, the Chargers and Justin Herbert may be without one of their top weapons on offense, and that is Mike Williams, who did not practice on Wednesday. He has a back injury, as he has been dealing with all throughout this season, and that could really make things difficult for the Chargers. Now, they still have Keenan Allen. They still have Austin Eckler. Joshua Palmer stepped in really nicely throughout different parts of this season. So they do have the weapons. But if you can have Mike Williams lining up on the opposite side of Keenan Allen, it opens up an entirely different game plan for the team. So something to be wary of. Big picture here. Trevor Lawrence has been balling. He is finally living up to the hype as the number 1 overall pick. He has been tremendous in his last 8 games. Doug Peterson has put him in a great situation. He gets the ball out fast. They've gotten everybody on offense involved, from the wide receivers to Evan Engram, the tight end, who was previously dubbed a failure and a bust from his time with the New York Giants. He is having a great season. Travis Etienne, his former teammate at Clemson, where they won those national championships, has been running the ball effectively out of the backfield. The Jaguars are firing on all cylinders right now. Huge momentous win against the Tennessee Titans to claim the division, no doubt about it. The Chargers, though, have been playing very well in addition to the Jaguars, though. Played themselves into the playoffs. Throw that Week 18 game against the Broncos. It was ugly. Throw it away. It doesn't count. It doesn't matter. This is a whole new season now. Here come the playoffs. Here's what I think it comes down to. As I mentioned already, the quarterback play from both teams. Who's going to outperform the other? Who's going to shine under the bright lights? Who's going to crumble under pressure? Justin Herbert or Trevor Lawrence? Also, does Staley, head coach of the Chargers, Brandon Staley, stay as aggressive as he usually does? Now, we have seen he hasn't been going for these 4th down and 4s, 4th down and 5s in his own field position as much as he was last year. He's dialed it back a little bit. But does he get antsy in a playoff game and potentially flip the field and allow it to go to Jacksonville at some point in this game? That's what I think it's going to come down to. Who's going to win? Here's my opinion. I think the Chargers are actually going to win this game. I'm not saying it because we're here in LA, but I really think Justin Herbert is going to go off and have a big debut in his NFL playoffs first game. It could be Eckler, could be Allen going off as well. But honestly, aside from the quarterback play, let me tell you why I think the Chargers are going to win, Andrew. Do you have any guesses or anything real quick?
You know what? I'm staying with LA. Even though, like you mentioned earlier, they did get wiped clean earlier in the season, but half the weapons were gone on the offense for the Chargers, like you mentioned. But everybody's back now, and I do believe Mike Williams is going to be out there, if not as much as just as a decoy,
exactly,
to open that space up. And if he's wide open, throw him a pass, and he'll just go down gently. Won't try to stretch anything out too much.
Not going to go for the yak.
Oh, yeah.
The yards after catch, yak.
But, yeah, he'll go down and just be out there for a decoy. How could you not? It's the playoffs.
Exactly. This is where the big boys got to get up get out there. Yeah, everyone's got nagging injuries at this point. But I have two reasons why, before I wrap this up, why I think the Chargers are going to win this game. And although I already said it's because Justin Herbert, two more reasons. Number one, Chargers field goal kickers. They started the season with veteran Dustin Hopkins, but lost him to injury. Enter Cameron Dicker, or as he's known, Dicker the Kicker.
Best name in sports right now.
Yeah, baby. Dicker the Kicker. 19 of 20 on field goals this year. 22 of 22 on PATs. Most importantly, he's not Nate Kading. And if you're a football fan or if you're a Chargers fan, you know who Nate Kading is. He missed two potential game winners. I'll never forget it. Back in 2004, it happened against my team, the Jets. That's why I remember it. 5 years later, I'm in the building in San Diego. Nate Kading, 5 more years of experience under his belt, misses 3 field goals in the divisional round of that playoffs. Nate Kading's not kicking for you. You got Dicker the Kicker, the best nickname in sports right now. He's been money good. And you know what, number 2? Doug Peterson, the head coach for the Jaguars. Yeah, he's a Super Bowl winning head coach. Yeah, he led the Eagles to the victory over the Patriots in Super Bowl 52. He's turned this Jaguars team around from the worst of circumstances last year with Urban Meyer. But there's a video that's been circulated of Doug Peterson where he has this really weird fetish with a water bottle, and it is being put all around his face in a very sexual looking manner. And I don't know. I can't roll with that. It's not going to work for me. I think the Jaguars have a good thing building here, but I think they're one step behind the Chargers, who have now taken that next step and are ready to win a playoff game and march their way to the playoffs. So my final prediction for this one, I got the Chargers winning by a final score of 22-16. Don't quote me on that unless I'm right. Then please do quote me on it if I'm right. Hey, we have much more to do. We will preview the rest of the NFL playoffs, including the matchup that I am most excited for this weekend. And later on, we'll be talking about the biggest crybaby in the NFL. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to Out of Bounds with Matt Frieda here on KHTS FM 98.1 AM 1220 and hometownstation.com. Little green onions on this Thursday. Always reminds me of the Sandlot. Always reminds me of the Sandlot.
Oh, yeah. Staple of the Sandlot. Yep.
100%. I used to go to little baseball camp at the college out by me, and every summer when I was growing up, we'd watch the Sandlot every year. So
yeah, it's a perfect walkout song. Like, you gotta get ready.
Oh, it's perfect. It's perfect. I like this one for like a what do they call it? Like a mound visit or like a pitching change, like something like that. I think it's a good one. Kind of, a little groovy.
There you go.
Yeah, a little jivey. 12:33 here on KHTS FM 98.1 AM 1220. Matt Frieda here with you. Well, apparently the college football season is over, and I say that because, well, I'm not much of a college football fan, but I get up for the big games. I'm going to watch a few bowl games. I actually had the pleasure of going to 2 different USC games this year, even though I'm really not even a USC fan. I went to the Battle of LA, USC, UCLA. That was a great one at the Rose Bowl. USC ended up winning, and then I went the following week to USC versus Notre Dame, and USC again won that one on their way to, I guess that was the Pac-12 championship with Utah?
Yes, sir. Yep. You should have went to that game.
Right, we discussed this. I'm apparently very good luck for the Trojans.
And bad luck
for not going.
They lost against Utah.
Right.
But anyway.
Right. So I apologize for that to any USC Trojan fans out there. But yes, the national championship was played on Monday. I mean, I guess it was played. It was pretty one-sided. Georgia wins their second consecutive national title, defeating TCU by a final score of 65-7. Yes, you heard me right. 65-7. Wow, that was not good. It caused a lot of controversy with TCU sneaking in after their incredible win over Michigan. Clearly, they did not belong in the title game. And this is the thing for me. Being a New York fan, we're not really too big into college sports. Like, yes, you have Syracuse, but they're further upstate. We don't really pay attention to them unless they got a good basketball team. So for me, this wasn't something I truly grew up with as much as the Midwestern states or even here in Southern California where USC and UCLA are a big deal. So I can't really speak to it, but the whole idea that teams are going to be voted upon by a committee to see who plays in these championship games or what is now a college football playoff between the four teams, it just doesn't make sense to me. It just doesn't make sense to me. And it's frustrating because clearly TCU didn't belong. I saw this great viral video of this guy who he wasn't even a TCU or a Georgia fan, but just screaming at the camera that he was holding his phone about how the college football committee owes everyone an apology. I can't believe you put this out there. Every college football fan gets up for this. Rah, 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 rah. I mean, I am not as passionate, but he's got a point. No doubt about it. So I'm trying to figure out, how do they fix the college football situation? How do they fix the college football playoff that they have here, where now 4 teams get in and those 2 teams face off against each other? The winner of that game goes to the championship. So I spitballed some ideas here. Andrew, I want to get your opinion on them. I think they need to make it almost like soccer. I think there's too many teams that play each other that just clearly are not on the same playing field. So I've devised this plan, 3 divisions of 40 teams each, where you're essentially putting the top 40 in the first group. You could call that D1 or whatever new name you want to give it. And then you have the next 40 teams, and then you have a third division of 40 teams. And you only play those teams in your division head to head. No more of this Alabama playing Arkansas Community College of the Arts. No more Mississippi, Tech playing. It's like which big school beat up on these lower ranked schools better as the determining factor of who should be in the championship. That's where my problem is. So in this proposed format, I think you have 3 divisions, 40 teams each, and you do it like soccer, where you have promotions and you have relegations from year to year, where if Alabama all of a sudden doesn't actually play as well with the big dogs as we think they do, they might be up for relegation, and then maybe a team from that second division could get a promotion. Your thoughts, sir?
I like that idea as a concept, but practically that will never happen.
Tell me why.
Because there's a lot of colleges, so it can be done. There's many teams, but the conferences, and then you have to go with the money aspect. It's sad to say, but this collegiate amateur, what it should be, is run by business and money.
True. And
they'll never split that up because they want to see the Alabamas against like a USC or somebody like that. Somebody, East Coast, West Coast, everything like that. They want those big games. Yes, those little games that they have against, South Dakota State, Eastern, Southern, wherever, are in the mid-season. But those championship ones, you need those Cinderella teams like a TCU, like a Boise State of years past that actually do great and can stand up to like the Power 5 conferences.
That's true. I would miss seeing Boise State's blue turf on TV. Come on. That's a classic right there.
But yeah, I don't think that format that you said will happen. But the playoffs extension of more teams is going to happen. It's on the horizon. And I believe that's the route to go, like they do in D2. They already have that.
What are they looking to do now to extend the playoffs?
Just more teams. Okay. Right now, it's just the top 4 that are in the BCS ranking.
Okay.
They go in. They do a mini playoff. It's already like you started the semifinals already. Now they're going to extend it so where there's quarterfinals and more teams get a chance to be in, because there are people that, like you said, mentioned that man that was outraged that his team didn't get in and they were number 5. And they just missed out. So now they get to go to a meaningless bowl, essentially, and they miss out because their strength of schedule was off by a point, by by the computers or whatever it
Right.
is. So now they extend it to more teams, which I believe it's going to be 10 to get a bye, and then the 8 go, however that figures out.
I like that because I actually had it proposed here an 8-team playoff format to determine who goes to the national championship.
And that's going to happen. I believe that's not next year, but in 2 years they're going to implement that where they're going to extend it. It might happen next season, but I think that's the way to go. That's how you should do it. More teams, that way I say top 10, you make it to the top 10, that's a feat on its own, and then you play for something that matters.
Yeah.
And keep the Bulls, because that's always fun. Because maybe you're not great enough to be in the top 10, but you were still good enough to be in the top 25. You should still get rewarded for that. So keep the Bulls there, but have more a chance to advance if you're in the top 10.
Yeah, and we've talked about it a little bit on here with is it what are they called? NF? No, not NFTs. Yeah, NFTs. Right?
No. What is that?
What are they?
NILs.
NILs. Yes, NILs. Yeah, so the ability for these college athletes to now make money off their likeness, name, image, likeness, hence NIL. It's kind of changed the game where you're not necessarily going to have the biggest names going. The biggest recruited players going to these big schools. I mean, I still see Georgia, though, and they've done such a good job recruiting. And so I was actually kind of keen on TCU getting in just to see a different name from Alabama or Clemson or Georgia, who were back in it. But just to see something different. Clearly, it didn't work out, though.
No, because and a lot of people wanted that because they were tired of seeing it. That just like, in the NBA, it was the Warriors and Cleveland going, back and forth, and people were like, can we get somebody new, please?
Yes.
This is old already. So same, and this is going on longer than that has.
Yeah.
Can we get somebody else of the Alabamas? I think the past 10 championships have been 9 SEC schools of the same ones and 1 ACC with Clemson. You mentioned Trevor Lawrence there earlier. So what they want fresh blood in there, but then the recruiting and the NIL kind of killed that because players are going to go, I'm going to go to a Georgia. I might not even play, but I can get my stock and my likeness used rather than going to a TCU and never get heard of, never get paid.
Right.
At this amateur hour. So I think it's kind of what do you do here?
Yeah.
Do you pay these players because you are using these kids' likeness to sell jerseys, tickets, stadium sales, everything like that, and give them money? Or are you saying, hey, we're giving you a free tuition, that should be good enough?
Right. And the experience, obviously, and it's a resume builder. It really is. If you're a denier and you say, well, they should be getting compensated monetarily, it is a resume builder to be a part of a prestigious college football program, and it speaks volumes about your character for the most part when you do actually go into the real world and get a job.
Right.
So there is that aspect of it as well. But transitioning from college football to professional football. Before I do that, you said some young blood in the national championship game. That reminded me of the show I just watched. Have you seen The Watcher on Netflix?
No, I haven't seen it.
It's spooky.
See, I gotta add that to the list.
It's spooky. It's not scary. It's spooky. It's based on a true story of a family that purchases a home in New Jersey, and they start getting these ominous letters in the mail where it goes from "Welcome to the neighborhood" to I know your kids' names. I know what rooms they are in, and I am watching you.
I'm out. I'd be out.
It's spooky. It's spooky. Yeah. One of the letters says, I hope you brought young blood to the house. The house needs new blood. That's what made me think of it in my head just now. Yeah, it's a little spooky. It's a little spooky. I don't know. We got to get on the same page here, Andrew. Man. You said in the break that you can do horror movies, but you can't do real life.
Right, real life. No, because that happened. I don't want. No, give me the monsters and stuff. I don't want stuff that can happen.
I'm the opposite. I don't want to see any of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You tell me about Jeffrey Dahmer, that doesn't bother me at all. But as soon as you go into the fantasy fictional side of horror, no, I'm out. Yeah. I can't do it. I don't know. All right, NFL playoff preview. I promised I was going to get to it. And the game I'm most excited for that I think has a lot of buzz going into it, and that is the Dallas Cowboys, America's team, versus Tom and the Tampa Bay Bucks. So I'm most excited for it because as a hater, no matter what, one of these teams is going to have to lose. I don't want the Cowboys to win. I want them out. I don't want to see Tom Brady win, so I want the Buccaneers to lose. But no matter what, at least one of these teams is not going to win the Super Bowl this year. So for me, it's a win-win. It's going to be an interesting game. We know these teams did play already in the regular season. Here's the question. Can Dak Prescott get over the hump? He has just one playoff win in his career. Which Cowboys defense is going to show up? The Cowboys defense from the first half, which was looking like an all-time great, or the one that's been playing in the second half, not looking nearly as sharp? And is this Tom Brady's final dance? I don't think so. I think he'll be playing somewhere next year, probably not with Tampa Bay, because Todd Bowles, their new head coach, is absolutely awful and has no idea what he's doing. So I think Tom will continue his career, maybe even the 49ers, which, speaking of the San Francisco 49ers, also have a playoff game with a divisional opponent, the Seattle Seahawks. Who saw them squeaking in this year with Geno Smith under center? When they made that trade of Russell Wilson in the offseason, we thought, wow, the Seahawks may not sniff 2 wins this year. And instead, Geno Smith goes on to pass for the most yards in a single season by a Seattle quarterback. I mean, hard to fathom.
Yeah. That had to hurt Wilson just to see that first year. Didn't expect anything. Wilson got a big contract, and then he tanks the season, and Geno Smith just comes in and breaks his record.
It's unbelievable. I mean, like, Geno Smith, I guess from a talent standpoint, always kind of had, check the marks, but I mean, I'm surprised he's even still in the league. He bounced around. He was a backup. He barely played the last 5 years, and all of a sudden anointed the starting quarterback. Pete Carroll obviously put some type of system together that is working for him, and he has proven all the haters wrong. And as he said, the haters wrote me off, but I didn't write back.
Yep, and now he's playing on Monday Night Football against Brady for a chance to advance in the playoffs.
Yep, exactly.
Or no, Sunday.
And it's going to be against the 49ers. Does Brock Purdy look Purdy? I had to do it. Is he looking good under center? I don't know. It's all the Niners can do. Jimmy Garoppolo is out. Obviously, they lost Trey Lance earlier in the season. Purdy's done a great job of being a game manager. Come playoff time, you kind of need your quarterback to have a couple of big throws to win you a game. Although the Niners have a pretty good defense, they obviously have some great weapons on offense. They don't have to ask him to do a lot. But when that time does come where they do need him to make a big play, will Brock Purdy be ready to do so, the young rookie quarterback? Bills versus Dolphins. Now, this is the one as a Jets fan that I should be most focused on, most paying attention to and excited for, but I'm not. The Dolphins are lucky to be in the playoffs. You want to talk about backing into the playoffs? This is the definition of doing so. They started the season 8-3 before losing 5 straight, going 8-8, and then barely beating the Jets last week with a last-second field goal to win by a final score of 9-6. Tua is not playing. He has not cleared concussion protocol. Their backup, Teddy Bridgewater, broke some fingers a few weeks ago. He's not playing, so they are going with third-string quarterback Skylar Thompson. It's going to be ugly. It's going Bills by 100. The Bills are going to dismantle the Dolphins. Number one, I think they're still rallying around Damar Hamlin and that whole situation. I think number two, they are going to put the pedal to the metal, whatever that saying is. They are going to outscore the Dolphins. It's not even going to be a game. I think it's honestly going to be like a 35-3 final score. I think by the end of the third quarter, you're going to already be turning the TV off. The Bills are going to trounce them. I think they're on their way to the AFC Championship. Another compelling game, Bengals versus Ravens. They competed for the AFC North title all throughout the year, giving each other blow after blow, punch after punch. It obviously got a little weird after the Bengals and Bills game was canceled because of the Damar Hamlin injury. The Bengals go on to claim the AFC North due to their winning percentage. It was better than the Ravens. Here's the big question, though. Will the Ravens have Lamar Jackson? We just got a report not too long ago. Lamar Jackson has still not been cleared to play in this game. If they don't have Lamar Jackson, forget it. There's no chance that the Ravens can compete with the Bengals. Joe Burrow is an alpha male. That guy walks in a room and you're like, that is the most manly man I've ever seen. He's got the aviators on. He's got the cigar in his mouth. He's got the hardware from a national title game a few years ago with LSU. This guy is a boss, and I have full belief that he is going to take it to the Ravens. The only way the Ravens are going to be able to beat him is if a healthy Lamar Jackson is out on that field. And quite frankly, he doesn't even want to play for this team right now, it doesn't sound like. They've been talking about franchise tagging Jackson. He doesn't want to play for them if that's the case. He might be thinking about his future at this point. This might be a business decision not to play in this game. So I got the Bengals winning that game over the Ravens. And then we have the Giants and the Vikings. This one makes no sense at all. The Giants somehow, some way, like the Seattle Seahawks, who were predicted to win maybe 2 to 3 games this year, went 9-7-1 with no talent on their roster, a first-year head coach, a first-year general manager, and somehow find themselves in the super wild card weekend. I'm not going to say I'm jealous as a Jets fan, but I'm really, really jealous because I thought my team was more talented. We share a stadium, we share a town, and it was tough to have to see the Giants in the playoffs this year after it looked like they had no business being in this discussion. Meanwhile, the Vikings, similarly, but on the opposite end of the spectrum, are here at 13-4, but they have a negative point differential this year. In other words, they have allowed more points than they have scored. Typically, a team like the Vikings that are 13-4, 9 games over 500, will have a point differential of plus 80, plus 100. That's what you might see out of the Bills or the Chiefs or 5 years ago with the New England Patriots when Tom Brady was quarterbacking for them. The Vikings somehow went 13-4 and were outscored by their opponents when you combine all of the games this season. It doesn't make sense. And then you also have primetime Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins in primetime, it is ugly.
You like that? You like that?
Oh, I like it, Kirk.
Ooh-wee. Good pocket. Hey, great pocket.
Great pocket.
That was you guys. I took forever.
Uh-huh.
And I used to be big into moon phases like waning gibbuses.
Ooh, waning. I'm actually more of a crescent moon kind of guy myself, Kirk. Kirk Cousins, you like that? You like that? After his big win. That guy's just goofy. He's funny. Yeah, Kirk Cousins, I don't think there's any arguing. He's a good NFL quarterback. Is he a great one? I'm not so sure. And usually what separates the good from the great quarterbacks is how they perform on the big stage. Primetime Kirk Cousins is a real thing. In his career, coming into last season, the 4th worst winning percentage since the year 2000. A 2-10 record on Monday Night Football, including a loss to the Philadelphia Eagles this week in Week 2. 11-18 overall in prime time games. He might have overcome it with his victory against the Patriots on Thanksgiving this year, but that will remain to be seen. That's what I was going for. Hey, look, we got to take a break. It is 12:53 here on your hometown station, KHTS. When we come back and wrap up the show, the biggest crybaby in the NFL, yes, the video of Odell Beckham throwing a tantrum on an airplane last month has surfaced. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to KHTS FM 98.1 AM 1220. Little cream sunshine of your love here on this Thursday. 12:55, Matt Frieda here with you. A few more minutes before we wrap up the show. We've been talking NFL playoffs. I gave you my predictions for the Chargers and Jaguars. First time the Chargers are back in the playoffs since 2018. You got to get hyped, LA. Bolt up. It is time. Justin Herbert, first NFL playoff game. It's going to be exciting. We got games on Saturday. We got games on Sunday, and we got games on Monday. That's why they call it the Super Wild Card Weekend. But before we get into that, well, we already got into it, but before I wrap up the show, what I did want to talk about is something I just teased before the break, and that is the biggest crybaby in the NFL, Odell Beckham Jr. Wham! Big baby. This guy's made millions and millions of dollars playing in the NFL. He's been coddled his entire career since he debuted, really since he was in college at LSU. And about, I'd say a month ago, it was the Friday after Thanksgiving. There were reports that Odell Beckham was detained by police after he refused to cooperate with airline attendants on a commercial flight that he was on. And we've now seen the footage of that incident. And apparently Odell Beckham went directly from the club that evening on Thanksgiving. Wow, what a very nice way to spend your Thanksgiving at the club, onto this flight. And we didn't know much more other than he was unresponsive, was sleeping, refused to put a seatbelt on. Hey, when I get on a plane and it's early morning or late at night, I'm trying to go to sleep right away. So I kind of looked at it like that. But now we see what actually happened. And it looks like Odell Beckham was trying to cause trouble, as he was very difficult with the police officers, with TSA or whoever else was involved, and very rude to just ordinary people like you and I who were also on this commercial flight. So Odell Beckham basically says, hey, I'll be on a private jet out of here while you losers wait an extra 40 minutes for your plane. Typical. Well, what are you going to do? They live different lives than us, those athletes. So baby of the day goes to Odell Beckham Jr. All right, guys, thanks for listening to Matt Frieda here on KHTS FM 98.1 AM 1220.